What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Navs Effect podcast. I am your host, Naveen Ganglani. Joining me today is Simoun Redoblado. I'm sure many of you, especially college basketball enthusiasts, will remember him from my podcast episodes throughout UAAP season 87, especially in the finals when we had reaction episode after games 1 and 3, I believe. I'm not. Did we do game 2, Simon? I can't quite remember. Anyway, I digress. Simon is back for the first time this year because I thought it was an important time to discuss college basketball here in the Philippines, especially with all the movements, the rumors, the news that's going out there. So we're gonna dig into that, and I promise I have some information to share. How good that information is, I'll leave that up to you. The best I can do is let you guys know what I'm hearing and what I think might be off note, and you decide from there. Okay, Simon, welcome back. How have you been, man?
Life has been good. It's Easter Sunday. We rejoice in the saving grace of our Lord and Savior. And this past week, we have entered 4 months into the men's basketball title reign of the defending champions, UP Fighting Maroons. I'm still on that, Nabs. I'm still on that.
You're keeping track, huh? You're keeping track. It's kind of cute actually when like fans of teams start winning championships. They're like, yeah, we're like our reign has been this long because it reminds you of how it's important to enjoy the little things of being a sports fan. When your team is a champion, who knows how long you have that trash talk bragging rights or that feeling of being at the throne. It's a great feeling, of course. And right now, the UP fans, I'm sure, feel thrilled. And guess what, Simon, you are right. College basketball is coming. Right now, we have Asia Basket. Shout out to the Asia Basket for giving us more college basketball action in the off season. And we have Phil Oil coming up, Pinoy Liga. Of course, in fact, we're recording this on Sunday, April 20. And on Tuesday, April 22, Pinoy Liga will have their media day, a coaches briefing, and some players might be there. So that league is going to start. We know the Phil Oil takes place somewhere around May. I mean, it's crazy to think it's coming because right after Phil Oil and the off-season, the teams go on their abroad trips and then they come back. And just like that, we're back, baby. We're back. But before the we're back part happens, there's a lot of movement. Changes here, changes there. I was telling Simon before we started recording that I've been getting a lot of messages lately on my social channels from fans and passionate college basketball followers and whatnot, even family members of certain players or coaches who might be involved with certain teams, agents. Of course, it's a web, it's a network. And a lot have been curious, where's this guy going? I heard this guy is going. Some tips could be incredibly accurate and out of nowhere. Some tips could be a wild goose chase, but it's part of the game. However, we want to try and find where that middle ground is as much as possible because it's important to note when discussing movements in college basketball, movements in sports teams and sports leagues in general. These things can be sensitive and, more importantly, flexible. And what do I mean by flexible? Today, one player hypothetically could go up to me and say, I'm going to this team for sure, 1,000%. 2 days later, it could be totally different. And you can't exactly blame people for changing their minds because it's human to change your mind and think of other options, to have other possibilities. So I just want to say that to remind everyone that things are always flexible in college basketball, but at least right now, based on where things stand, we're gonna try to put some layers to it and provide context. I think that's the key word here, context, especially when it comes to accurate reporting or accurate information. And sometimes, like I said, it won't stay accurate or the same for an extended period of time. It might change. Sometimes, though, it stays that way for the long haul. So, what's Simon's role on this episode going to be? In addition to providing his usual insight and analysis to college basketball and taking a victory lap. Oh wait, sorry, Dallas did not end up better than the Lakers. Simon, I just had to add that there. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist it. Simon is also our NBA writer for All Star Magazine, but
Your
but
your sister messaged me to just rub that in my face. What's up, Miss Nicole? And you're right. And sorry that the Lakers lost earlier.
Oh, a subtle dig. Hey, what was your prediction? Was it
I
Lakers in?
said I think Lakers in 6 or Lakers in 7.
Okay, I had Lakers in 5. But anyway, we're gonna get to that maybe later at the end. For now, Simon, you play the role of college basketball enthusiast. You ask me questions you want to know answers to, questions you think other college basketball fans would like to know answers to, and I, like I've mentioned, will answer to the best of, and these are the keywords, the best of what I am permitted to say. So if you think some of the information might be lacking or it's not a lot, just note that at this point I'm saying what I have been told is okay to say. So Simon, the reins are yours. What do you want to know first? And yes, UP is still good. Not that you needed to know that, but I'm sure it's nice to hear that, right?
I wasn't going to ask that, Navs, because that's not even a question. Anyway, so I like how Navs prefaced basically the preamble to the 1987 Philippine Constitution, and I totally understand why you have to put such a lengthy disclaimer. I understand the confidentiality of the type of work you do, but in my case, I'll be more concise. First question, Navs. Kumusta na, pre? Murayta ka pa rin?
I had a feeling, and you know what, Simon? I have my sticky note ready. I have some sticky notes here. Okay, what do you want to know about VJ Pre?
Basically what I just said. Sa Murayta pa rin ba siya? O tatawid, mag-MRT, mag-LRT, mag-Uber, whatever the case may be. Wala na palang Uber.
Okay, let's establish two things real quickly here. Number one, most importantly, is that as of this moment, April 20, happy 420 to those who celebrate. VJ Pre is enrolled at FEU. And I believe I'm not so familiar with the FEU academic calendar, but if I had to surmise based on generic academic calendar situations, I guess it's so different because I came from a trimester school. So anyway, I digress again. I believe classes are till May. And the most important note here is that VJ Pre is still enrolled at FEU. It's number one. That's number two. No, I mean, sorry. And number two, VJ Pre absolutely loves FEU. He wants to stay loyal to FEU. Hold on now. And he wants to keep playing with his teammates. Kaibigan niya mga yan from high school, from a young age. And you don't need to be a basketball player to know that the people you grow up with, your friends you grow up with, especially in the teenage years of your life, you want to be with them, right? That is just human nature. You want to be with those close to you. FEU is in touch with VJ Pre. I believe Coach Sean and Sir Mark Molina keep, contacting, talking to VJ, of course. And I believe FEU will meet VJ after the Holy Week break to discuss things over to see where the situation is at. Here's one last thing I will say in the situation. And do with it what you want. But what from the family's mindset, the chance to play elsewhere, they are, and again, I didn't hear this directly from them. I just want to make that clear. Heard it from a source that I absolutely trust, a source I have spoken to for many years now, and someone who knows what's happening. Let's just say that the family does not want to see the opportunity now, years later, as what could have been. Or to simplify it further, the family does not want to potentially waste an opportunity. Now, does that mean VJ is transferring for sure? I am not there yet. I don't think that's there yet. Is VJ loyal to FEU? Like I said, absolutely. Does VJ love FEU? Yes. Is VJ still enrolled at FEU? Again, that's very important when it comes to these things. Yes. but also the part about the opportunity that I just mentioned, that's also a factor there.
I suppose Pasaolda and all those boys are absolutely crucial to whatever Pre decides to do. But uh, this kid's talent is next level, which is why he is the first topic of conversation that we have right here, Navs. And I'm just hoping that wherever Pre lands, whether that's where he currently is or elsewhere, I do hope that he will find himself in a program that will cultivate his talent 1,000% because that's how good he is. Okay, so let's switch gears and let's do some NCAA action. Although this is still connected to the UAAP. So, my boys, Aldous Torculas and Denzel Walker, um, are finding themselves, okay, on a pathway to Manila. Torculas to Beda, and uh, Denzel Walker to Letran. Best of luck to you, Deuce and Denzel. Navs, are we going to see some more UAAP to NCAA moves in the next few months?
I think there's one that's 95% done, just hasn't been announced yet. Hmm. It's a possibility, yes. Look, the new UAP residency rule has been a game changer. First of all, if you're gonna transfer to another UAP school from a UAP school, you better do it after your first season. If you do it after your second season, that's such a big gamble because you play 2 years, you lose 2 years, you have 1 year left. Now you're banking on everything going right in this one season, which takes place 2 years from now because you still have to sit out 1 year due to residency. Not to make this a topic about residency, but you also have to remember if you're transferring and you have one season left, what if the coach who initially recruited you isn't there anymore? Or what if they recruit a new player the same position as you? So that's always the risk there. So if you were to transfer UAP to UAP, you do it after your first season. Now, what's the alternative? UAP to NCAA because you still sit out 1 year, yes, but your playing eligibility is intact. So let's say someone tries out the UAP for 1 year, doesn't go well, they move, and if their age still fits the criteria, because remember NCAA's age limit is at 24 compared to the UAP, which is 25. I have to double check that. You can still get those 4 years because they don't take away the 1 year from residency. You just have to sit out. So does that make NCAA appealing? Absolutely. And I feel that nowadays players know that turnover in not turning the ball over in the court, but turnover in terms of roster construction, it's so much more flexible than before. I mean, I mentioned this in our Navs Effect exclusive members group chat, Simon. It's crazy to me that from the season 86 DLSU Green Archers championship team, only 4 guys are left. Four. That's a roster of 15, 16 players. Only 4 guys are left. Michael Phillips, JC Macalalag, Earl Abadam, and EJ Goliena. And Goliena was a rookie in 86. First year player. And it's not like Abadam and Macalalag were also super old already in 86. They're veterans now, but not back then, right? So that's an example of how quickly things change. I think, for example, you're gonna see a lot of change in UP for 80. What are we now? We're for 89 next year because of all the graduating Bulldogs, and you're gonna see a different team. So the same's the case in the NCAA too. Players will go to the PBA, some will go somewhere in Asia. The MPBL now with teams offering you contracts even higher than some PBA teams, that becomes appealing. So the moves sometimes seem like short term from the outside because it's like, okay, why are you moving? You just want playing time right away. But that's how the trend is going now. When the opportunity is there, you have to take it. And look, I also don't blame a lot of the young players for doing that because the number one basketball league in the world, which is the NBA, which I think is the sport that dominates media news waves digitally more than any other league, at least from the Western Hemisphere, and now we see it here in the Philippines as well. they see players moving everywhere, trades, free agency, and so that's in their minds growing up, player empowerment, player movement, and that's why they're also saying, well, if I have an opportunity to shine here, I'll take it, right?
Thank you for that, Navs. I think some of our listeners spaced out after you said there's a move UAAP to NCAA that's 95% done, and now all that they're thinking of is, sino kaya yung player na yun? Sa team ko kaya yun? Sa school ko kaya yun? But in any case, I'm sure that's a Navs bomb that will drop sooner rather than later. Okay, so you talked about UAAP to NCAA, perhaps even vice versa. Now let's talk about high school. Navs,
Ooh.
will Racine Kane and Collins Okoye remain Manila residents or perhaps transfer to a new home in, let's say, Quezon City?
I don't know. When I asked Racine a few days ago, he said he's contemplating choices. He's just not sure yet where he's gonna go. He also didn't tell me which teams. And then Collins, I know a lot of people are wondering if he's left NU for sure because of his post. And then there was one deleted story or something like that that got some people excited. I think he has options as well. But if I were to guess, and again, I'm guessing here to the best of my abilities, he's still just weighing the options and then he's going to decide what's potentially best for him. That's the most I got with those two guys right now.
Well, there's a bunch of schools, okay, maybe one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, that are bakit seven lang, eight, okay, that would absolutely love to have one of these two promising young studs. So, tututukan natin yan, the whereabouts of Kane and Okoye over the next few months as well. Okay, I want to talk about one specific team, Navs, and that would be the UE Red Warriors. And no, I don't just want to talk
You
about them just because John Abate's hair looks really great these days. Okay, not
mean the
that it
Clay
wasn't great.
Thompson of the
Okay.
Philippines?
Hey, I mean, the guy just added to his swag, if you know what I mean. Okay, how has the UE
He's a
roster?
lover boy too. Shout out John,
Ah,
Mr. Lover
that's I
Lover.
could probably, add that to our questions later, pero off cam. How has the UE roster received Coach Chris Gavina? And are we going to see Coach Chris flex his Philham Nation Select Connects this season? Mararamdaman na ba natin yung impact na yan from Coach Chris?
The UE situation is always so tricky because the fans are so passionate and they just want to root for a winning team. They're like they are the current UAP team with the longest Final Four drought in UAP men's basketball. It's been 16 years, '09. The last year they made the Final Four, which was also a year they made it to Game 3 of the finals. They lost to the second year of the Ateneo Blue Eagles five-peat dynasty. That was my first year as a college student too. That's why I remember that year distinctly. Anyway, sorry, story time. Let's see. Coach Chris is doing the best he can at UE, and he is trying to build from the ground up, changing the habits, changing the culture, changing the tradition there. He's getting his players to do jogs in the morning together. They do hot yoga sessions together. They do boxing sessions together. God just sees Instagram. They'll post it there. They do mental practices. And on the court, they're intense. They're defense first. You earn your playing time, you earn your spot. And I'm not sure if they're quite there yet in terms of being a really good team, but you're seeing some signs of improvement and then some signs of looking bad. So still a little inconsistent based on the Asia Basket offseason. Because remember, they were competitive in some games. There's even one game John Abate went off for like he hit 8 3-pointers. And then there's a game they lose to St. Clair, which, with all due respect to St. Clair and our boy Fran Lu, UE was the favorite entering that matchup and the anticipated team to win, and they got defeated pretty handedly. So there's some aspects there that still need to be changed. And it's gonna take time. I mean, remember, Gavina's only been there like what, 2 months, 2.5 months. The recruit part of it is always tricky because a lot of people just assume that foreign players want to come here to the Philippines, get one of the spots so they can play ball, right? But it's not that simple because it requires change. It requires a kid to uproot his life at a very young age, an aspect we forget sometimes. Leave his parents, leave his friends, girlfriends. Like in the case of Alex Konov, he had a committed relationship back home, and I'm sure he missed her while he was here. Not saying that was the main decision for him going home, by the way. I'm just saying that was probably something he considered as well. And then if you want to get them here, if you want to get them playing and playing hard, you also need to make it rewarding, right? You need to make it I know some people might scoff at this, but worth their time. And basically that means allowances and perks and whatnot. And not a lot of schools just have that many deep pockets, especially when you compare it to the other premier squads of college basketball. So sometimes a coach has to work with what he's given, work with what he has. And I think Chris Gavina is working with what he has as much as he can. But in terms of UE suddenly stockpiling a lot of premier talent and blue chippers, I'm not sure we're there yet. Because remember, you can recruit blue chippers even if you're not a super winning program, even if you're not a super loaded program financially. But you at least, if you're at least like semi competitive, or you have a chance to, like, let's say, make the final four, or you show a history of being competitive, then that might attract some players more, even if the offer's not exactly really big. And I think UE, they're starting from here. I know they almost made the final four last season, but with the way that crashed down, they're starting from the bottom, really, a place they've been a lot the last few years. And Coach Chris is trying his best to work the team up one level after another. So I don't think it's gonna happen overnight. And I'm not sure he has a super long-term contract with them. I mean, he didn't disclose how many years he has with them. So we don't know how much time he's been given. But it's gonna take time for UE to be really good again.
Hey, I remember the time when Coach Chris Gavina was flexing his mentorship might in the PBA with Terraferma, with Rain or Shine. And the impression that he gave off was this guy is someone that I'd like to develop a young core with. This is a guy who specializes in player development. And we also saw that last year when he led Phil Am Nation Select to the NBTC Championship, right, with Calum Harris, Jacob Baila, and those boys. So, yeah, best of luck to Coach Chris. And if I were one of the UE Red Warriors and I saw that Precious Momaway is going to be the guy who's up next in a sparring session in boxing, I'm going to do everything that in my power to like get to the back of the line. Ikaw na, ikaw na. I don't want to get in front of that guy. We love you, Precious. Okay. So, sige, uubusin na natin yung UAAP team snaps. Alam kong
Wait
may
lang. With your
bound for
questions, do
everyone.
you have one pasabog question you're trying to wait for the right time to ask? Are you saving for one?
You know me, Nevs. I'm a writer and storyteller just like you. Of course, I'm gonna save it for the
Okay,
end.
okay.
And of
Bef
course, I'm going to make it concise.
okay, can I just share some quick news bits
Go ahead.
before we proceed with the questions? Okay, so one, here are some names I'm expecting to be joining the PBA draft this year. Chris Kuhn, um, Jason Brickman, who's currently with Aber in the MPBL, Gerard Wilson, who was with the UE Red Warriors, Sean Kitevis, champion with the Ateneo Blue Eagles, team captain, and Christian Manaytay, who was with USD, currently with Nueva Ecija in the MPBL too. I'm trying not to get this in the camera where someone can like zoom in there, because ooh, here are two names that I would be on the lookout for playing in the PBA, if not this year, maybe next year. Juan Gomez Del Llano, who we should say still has 1 year player option in his contract in the KBL right now with the Knights. And Kiefer Ravena, who has 1 year left with his current B League team in Japan. Would it surprise me if those guys find their way back to the PBA? Well, in Kiefer's case, find his way back. One maybe finally take the leap to go into the PBA. It would not surprise me. Let's just leave it at that. Ooh, I should congratulate Under Armour for signing Alex Stockton to its roster of basketball talent. Congratulations, Under Armour. Under Armour is also close to signing one premier young talent in the high school college basketball world today. We'll see as the days go by. Congratulations to Titan for signing Clint Escamis in his journey as a sneaker free agent. Remember, Clint Escamis announced here in this podcast that he was a sneaker free agent a few months ago. Now he gets to wear Titans gear. Props to him. Titan has a leading trio of Cortez, Francis Lopez, Clint Escamis. In terms of top-notch ballers, that's a pretty good deal. A couple of expiring PBA contracts after this current conference and season to look out for: Xavier Lucero and Stephen Holt. Xavier is playing the best basketball of his life with Magnolia right now. Stephen Holt, of course, has helped Ginebra make 2 straight finals appearances. Remember, in the PBA, when your contract's up, it's not like you're just an unrestricted free agent right away, especially when you're not that far into your career yet. Your team still holds your rights, so I expect a negotiation and extension for both teams. Javi Gomez Deliano, his contract is expiring with the Anyang Boosters in the KBL. He, of course, had a solid season just recently. Some people started calling him KBL Clay. He shared that in this podcast as well. So if you guys want to look back on my podcast with Javi, it's in the archives. And I believe there might be talks starting next week if whether or not Javi will come back with Anyang for next season in the KBL. And as far as Renz Abando, it's a wait and see process for the former UST star. I think his main goal is to still try and get back to Japan or Korea. So we'll see there. Those were some things I just wanted to share. Go for it, Simon.
Juan Gomez de Leano in the PBA draft. I did not have that in my bingo card for 2025 or 2026. Well, it's probably not gonna happen this year, but
Whoa,
yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't be so sure with that.
Ooh,
I
all
mean, look,
right.
I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I'm
Okay.
also not saying it's not gonna happen.
Look,
And
Nabs.
also, let's not forget, Juan Gomez Aliano was a PBA D-League MVP a few years ago
Yeah,
with Marinerong Filipino. Sorry about that.
it's a tongue twister. The very first article that I wrote for All Star was the mock PBA draft last year. So, how
Oh
sweet
shit,
would
no
it be
way.
How sweet would it be if the 1 year anniversary of that particular article, I'm writing my original guy. Paborito ko siya, Nabs. Paborito ko siya nung early season 80s. Ano ba yun? 80, 81, 82. Paboritong player ko siya sa UP. So, yeah.
You know that first UP finals run, 2018? I'm not sure if he was the best player because he was with Bright Akueti, who was really essential. I think Bright won the MVP. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he won that year, 2018.
And Paul was there.
Yes. And of course, you had vet like Diego Dario. You had Javi there also, and other guys who stepped up. But I thought the most impactful player of that run was Juan Gomez Liliano. There was something about how he would ignite that UP crowd back then with a one-handed dunk, a three-point shot out of nowhere, a sick drive. That was one of the underrated UAP seasons. You know how some guys just have like a lot of great UAP seasons that people sometimes forget through time? That was a great 1 GDL season.
Most skilled player, pound for pound, if I had to say so. So, Juan, kung gusto mo na umuwi, sige, umuwi ka na. Okay. Right. Sige, ubusin na natin yung UAP team snaps. During one of our, like, forecast episodes here on the Navs Effect some months ago, you ranked NU as one of the top contending teams for season 88. And I always thought, and I never told this to you, I always thought, siguro may alam to si Nabs, kaya niya ni-rank yung NU, I think it was third, just after UP and Lasal. So sabi ko, meron namang UST on the rise, merong FEU on the rise, Ateneo is always there. So, Was that you knowing something and just not telling us, or was that you putting faith in, first of all, the coaching staff headed by the incomparable Jeff Napa and the veterans na mga mama na maglaro?
Well, first, I should say I have UST as my number three now. It to me the power rankings right now are UP, LaSalle, UST, and U. But we're very early. We've had one off-season tournament so far. We won't really know until we see these teams in Philoel Pinoy Liga and more Asia Basket. With NU, I just don't know what the FSA situation is going to look like. Modi Asana got injured, Tori's ACL, the first game of the UAP season last year, which was September, which means that unless it's a speedy recovery, which I don't think you want to push on a young kid, college student nonetheless. I don't know, like, can he get prepared in time if he comes back, let's say, July or August and starts playing in games? Like, can NU line him up in their official roster if he wasn't in the off-season tournaments with them? Omar John is technically still eligible. Would they go back to him? He was serviceable. Are they gonna field Colin Sakoe if they can still find a way to retain him? So the questions with NU's FSA situation is, yeah, that's what I'm wondering about right now. Now, Jake Figueroa, Manansala, expect them to have big years. I think some of the young guys will be better too, like Yumamoy, and the Palanca kid from the high school roster is really talented. I just feel like there's more sure, again, early in the offseason, but I just feel like with USD right now, there are more sure things I can see. Like, I know Nick's gonna be good. I know Fortsky's gonna be better after his offseason training with True Focus. The FSA situation, I think now they have clarity. It looks like it might be Osang. We'll see though, if, like, let's say Kane or someone else comes in. Yeah, I think I'd put UST right now. But does that mean that NU should be counted out? Probably not. They just have to figure out the FSA situation because last year we saw without an FSA, they couldn't find consistency until towards the end of the season, and it cost them a few games. So I think once they have that sorted out, we'll see.
Okay, just a couple more questions. Now, Adamson was fun to watch. Coach Nash Rosella talking about player development. Ang galing niyang maghatak ng full potential out of these kids. So I'm looking at the season 87 core, Montebon, Manzano, Mantua, Calisa, Hierro, Erolon, and the wing that I believe every UAAP team wished they had, AJ Fransman. Ang ganda ng improvement ng batang yun last year. Will this core remain intact for season 88?
I think so. The biggest news, I guess, for Adamson was the successful recruitment of their 7 seniors, which is a big win after they missed out on the 4 seniors from the year before. I think they're going to bank on continuity. Montebon playing a larger role, Manzano maybe having a larger role. I will see if OJ is still the FSA, probably. I think they're still Adamson. They're competitive, they're good. Sometimes they'll lack the firepower to beat the really good teams, but they'll be well prepared, well coached. To me, right now, they're probably the team that's most at the what they were at last season. That's the level they still are. In addition to, UP, but UP does it in a different scale.
Okay, I'll chop up my last question into two. Kasi syempre, sisave ko yung UP sa huli. Navs, may tinatago pa ba yung Ateneo at yung Lasal?
um, with
And
Ateneo,
the man is
with
officially uncomfortable, ladies and gentlemen.
with Ateneo, I feel like they're gonna try and secure Divine Adili once he graduates because he's been good for them in the off season. I know Ateneo's been recruiting some of the top high school talent like they usually do, they check in, right? I have to admit, I haven't heard that much about Ateneo recently. A lot of what people have spoken to about Ateneo say, just watch out for the Team B guys coming in or the new guys coming in who were in the program, like Kimani Ladi. And we've already seen what that guy's capable of. We've seen Danny Siegel comparisons already. We've seen an improved Kyle Gamber. We've seen an improved Jared Bahay to some degree. I think we'll see an improved Jared Bahay this season. Sean Tuano, I feel like he'll be better too. I think Bongo's a little bit better too. Ian Espinosa, he has absolutely improved based on the offseason. Again, very small sample size we're working with here, right?
Is Lazaro coming back? Does he have one more year left?
I believe he is, yeah, because he was playing in
Good.
the Asia Basket game against the LSU, which by the way they were very impressive in that game. They outscored LaSalle when Divine Adili was on the court. And when Kimani Ladi was on the court, if I'm not mistaken. The question to me is, will Chris Porter play this season? Because I believe he was catching up to some academics that when I asked, will he be eligible in time for UAP, the answer was, we'll see. It'll depend how he performs in the next few semesters. So there's still time for him to catch up. I wouldn't be surprised if Ateneo gets like one or two new recruits because they usually find a way to unearth these gems. So we'll see. And I'm most curious to see which of the guys recruited last season or the Team B guys will be elevated to Team A. Like, remember, they recruited this kid, Grayson Rogers, end of last year. I reported about it in All Star Magazine. I saw him at the DLSU game. He wasn't playing yet. So, how will he get acclimated to the team? And I feel like Ateneo is, by virtue of improving their FSA spot, they're going to be better. Adili is young, but he's not scared. When he was playing against Mike Phillips, he didn't mind attacking Mike. He was outplayed by Mike, but Mike is going to outplay a bunch of people this year. So we'll see. I mean, and with LaSalle, well, they're LaSalle. That's really the best answer I can give you about that. I mean, this was the team that last year recruited Jacob Cortez, Luis Pablo, Mason Amos, and Kian Baclan in the same year within a few months of each other. Are they trying to retain Gillian Quines, who, by the way, was sensational in the NCAA Juniors Finals? Yes. He has said on the record he's leaning towards going LaSalle. I think that's where he's going to end up. They're talking to some players, I think, like they usually do because they're LaSalle. Look, one of the big questions too is about LeBron James' diet, right? I think that's one of the aspects you're trying to get to as well. And do I think Daep is leaning towards one team? Maybe. I'd lean towards saying yes, if you catch my drift. But do I know a lot of schools are trying to recruit him? Yes. Perpetual wants him back. San Sebastian wants him. We've seen the online campaigning from the San Sebastian alumni. So I know that the big four have reached out. But out of the big four, and the big four that many people generalize as LaSalle, Ateneo, UPUST, the least interested, if I had to guess based on what I've heard, is UP. And it makes sense because the position he plays, they're pretty filled. Francis Lopez, Miguel Iniguez, Chico Briones, Jacob Bela, Harold Alarcon, di ba? So that I would say the three candidates are LaSalle, Ateneo, UST, not necessarily in that order, but I think those are the three candidates.
You know, as a journalist, sometimes you think of questions on the spot. I'm not saying that I am a journalist. You don't consider yourself one as well, although I think you are. So let's ask this one last impromptu question. Hindi ito yung question na. When is NBTC? Malapit na, di ba? Or like the national final?
Oh, I believe it finished already.
Oh yeah, okay. God.
It happened a few weeks ago with
Yeah,
Phil
yeah, yeah.
Nation Select beating Phenom in the finals.
Yeah. I got mixed up with the schedules
No,
earlier.
you're
Okay.
all good. You're all good. I get
Yeah.
mixed up too, honestly. I'll tell you a story. I forgot that I was gonna go cover one of the games, and then it hit me. Oh, wait, I'm late. I thought I was at 7 p.m. The game's at 5 p.m. Anyway, it happens to
Okay.
everyone.
Yeah, I think that's worse. Okay.
Wow.
May mga just to save face. All right. Um, some pretty interesting talents came over. On Abs, there were some
Say their
big names.
names. Say their names.
I'm not gonna say their names because I'm just gonna ask. May naliligawan dun yung UP, no?
Madaming nililigawan ng UP.
Okay. Let me because this is the last question
I
and
mean,
because
sinagot na sila ni James Payosing, right?
there you go. And Russell Ogana. I'm heavily invested in this, so I'm gonna sort of tighten the clamps. Siguro merong malapit-lapit silang mapasagot doon, no? Doon sa mga bumisita nun.
Well, which players are you referring to? Because
Um,
a lot of different players came, and some of them are still young, a few years away from graduating. Some are D1 bound in the NCAA, probably NBA bound, like Kainoa Patton eventually. Calum Harris, he's one of the guy people like to talk about. I think he'd eventually be open to coming here, but now he's still trying to get to the NCAA. We'll see. Beyond Riley's another name to watch out for. Not necessarily just with UP, but in general, if ever he decides to come here. Sage Tolentino is always the big question mark. Um, hmm. Yeah, with I think UP is pretty set with their current rosters. I'm not saying they're not gonna make any move anymore or they're not gonna be willing to talk if someone is available, but let's take a look at their season 88 roster. I mean, the
that's another
FSA's
podcast in
yeah, I
and of
mean
itself.
like they might you don't be surprised if you see them with multiple teams in Pinoy Liga. They have a deep talent pool and they if they are recruiting, it would be for season 89 and beyond because a lot of the graduating guys are leaving. And that's why you already saw one of the domino pieces fall, which was James Payosing. Knowing UP, I feel like there'll be another move or two down the line, but it's probably in its inception stages or it's in the process of happening, but it's not like finalized yet. And that's just
I
a guess.
I only ask because we said the same thing at this point last year after I turned 27 in the month of April. Yes, 27. And you know, parang 1 month after that, parang weeks after that lang, you dropped the bomb on all of us. Quentin Yora Brown. So, you know, minsan yung mga ganyan eh, if from your perspective siguro masyadong obvious. But to us, it's like, where did that guy come from? Vanderbilt? Citadel, really? So, we will wait for the most explosive piece of news that you will drop upon us, my friend.
I don't even know what that might be at this point right now, but it goes with what you said, right? About not knowing yet until it happens sometimes. I mean, obviously the DIEP announcement's gonna be big. I think the Kinyas announcement's gonna be big, but it would only be a shocker if he didn't go to LaSalle. That press situation, I'm sure everyone's waiting to see what happens there. Well, there is one player who God.
Ayan na, ayan na.
There's one player that let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves his current school. That's all I'm gonna say at this point.
Wow, that narrows it down.
Okay, let's see if I can narrow it down further. Oh, he's pretty good.
That narrows it down even more. That made it so much more specific.
Okay.
Oh man.
We've heard about this person potentially leaving before. Do I get your brain juices flowing now?
Eh, syempre, isang pangalan yung napuntahan ko doon. Pero in any case, all right. I love stories that, go back to the beginning in the end, if you catch my drift. But in any case, wow, Navs. do we call those bombs? They haven't gone
No,
off yet, so we'll call them Navs landmines. Kasi nakatanim
ah,
sila and they could explode, any moment now.
you might have just given me my next podcast branding idea. No, let's see. Okay, one more. I think San Sebastian is close to getting two players in addition to the GDL bros I already shared about a few days ago. Hey, from the off season, what's been your favorite bomb so far?
Okay.
Okay, no,
Um,
no, give me your favorite and what most surprised you and what least surprised you. So those are three.
okay, so ako yung na on the spot bigla. Um, for some reason, the biggest that comes to my mind right now is Clint Escamis staying. Kasi,
Oh, a shocking.
I mean, look, the guy could have honestly played in, I'm sure, in a lot of different pro leagues across Asia. That's how good he is. So the fact that he stayed and the fact that I believe he's committed to getting back to back with the Cardinals, parang salute sa'yo, bro. And my brother graduated from Mapua, so that's why, syempre, may vested interest din ako dyan. But yeah, shout out to that guy. Napaka loyal niya. Um, Least surprising, ano ba? Um, okay. A bit surprising as well. Some of your LaSalle boys leaving. Bit surprised by Konov deciding to leave, but obviously, if he is dealing with certain circumstances, then more power to you, bro. Hopefully, you'll be in a better situation this time around. I felt Navs that he was an example of talent that wasn't quite tapped to its fullest potential. And around this time last year, a lot of people were like, "Uy, dito ka na AK, dito ka na Konov."
Yeah, with 8K with 8K we need to remember also that they recruited him and then Mason came after that, right? Now I think Pablo had already moved to DLSU at that point. But then with Mason coming, that was also a factor into the minutes and the availability on the court. And I think he was just he had probably had a feeling that he wouldn't get a lot of minutes again because in the off-season games he wasn't getting minutes and he wanted to go home. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's why I said more power sa kanya. But one more, Navs, if you remember sa lahat ng preview natin ng UP Lasal, there was this one particular player aside from Kiambao, aside from Phillips, that I always said I was deathly afraid of on the DLSU lineup. And that was Raven Gonzalez. The fact that
Oof,
he
that was
left,
such a big loss.
the
Such a
UP
big
fan in
loss.
me was like, "Rrr." Yung isang napaka high IQ player na, provides the hustle, provides the points, provides the rebounding in the interior defense is gone from LaSalle. But like I was trying to empathize with you guys as well. Huge loss for
Huge,
the Green
huge.
Archers.
Austria also low key. Now, I think more than the scoring of CJ, they're gonna miss the angas or the toughness factor. You know, every not every LaSalle team has had that, but a lot of LaSalle championship teams have had that kind of player, right? Like Ryan Arania back in the day. Rico Meyerhofer to some degree, in addition to being a really good player. And the 2016 DLSU team, just point a name on the list and be like, oh man. That was still the most like if I think of which UAP team just had swagger on the court, to me the four-peat DLSU were like angas on the court eh. But like in terms of like swagger, the 2016 team by Ben and Bala, which they kind of just came into the court and was like, yeah, we're gonna dunk on you, we're gonna dunk on you, and we're gonna dunk on you. But anyway, yeah, you were saying? I cut your train of thought there. Go.
Yeah, Raven and then CJ. So uh, I think LaSalle will now bank on yung pool of talent nila from their transferees, the ones who've rendered residency from Baclaan to Cortez to Pablo to Amos. So ako ngayon yung magda-drop ng pasabog, and what a way for us to end the episode, right, Navs? There's this conversation thread that's been going on in that group chat of ours about the narrative about the favorites. And you know me, I really,
Oh.
really didn't like labeling anyone the favorites back then. But call me biased, call me a hypocrite. I think right now is the most confident that I can say over the past 5 years that UP is the favorites heading into season 88 precisely because the primary strength, or one of the primary strengths, of the biggest obstacle to them winning the championship in season 88, they have the Kryptonite 4. I think there's a reason why those boys, Alarcon, Abadiano, Torres, Felicilda, stayed. Because UP is gonna need them to counter the new arrivals of Baclaan and Cortez. And I think I can feel all the hatred and negativity flooding my social media right now. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast, Navs. It's always a pleasure.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on. But before I let you go, it wouldn't be a podcast with the both of us without some LaSalle UP talk. That's how we ended last season. So for our first episode this season, we should kind of go into it a little bit, just for a few minutes. Is UP the favorite right now? I'd
Yes, they
lean
are.
towards what you said. Yes, I agree. But there's a caveat for me. I still have a question of how you're gonna replace the QMB JD factor there.
Good.
Because
Good question.
it's not like UP lost talent. They have talent. So much talent. Some might say too much talent, but they have done the best job of compiling talent. If not better than, then definitely at least neck and neck with DLSU over the past 2-3 years. Probably a little bit better in terms of depth. What they lost with JD and QMB was situational basketball IQ and awareness. Now, that's not me saying that the rest of the team is not smart because they have intelligent players there who have played for a coach who they know each other. It's that kind of relationship that you don't even have to say stuff to each other to know what's on the other person's mind. That's how long they've been together. And that is their biggest strength over DLSU right now, continuity, which is so important in the game of basketball. So, so important. But it's the late game situational decision making where I'm most curious to see how UP performs. And look, we're not gonna see a lot of it in the offseason because let's be honest, they're gonna blow out a lot of teams. By the first or second quarter, a lot of the teams they play, it's gonna be a 10, 11 point deficit, and they're gonna run away with the victory. So we might not even get to see it properly until the UAAP. But the first time UP is in a close late game situation, I want to see how that goes. I want to see who makes the decisions with the ball on the court. I want to see who is going to be that grounding factor that QMB was. Keyword grounding factor that QMB was. Do I think Remogat can do it? Similar to what JD did. They're different players, in my opinion. They score differently. They create for others differently. But they are both very good players. So I want to see how Remogat handles this situation. Because yes, we have seen him in late UAP games when he was with UE, but we haven't seen him in the Final Four final setup yet. Diba? And again, that's not to cast aspersion on Ramagat, who I think is confident and fearless. I just want to see how it's gonna go. And more important than the point guard position is the QMB role. Especially because if you're UP, when you're looking at your biggest obstacle, it's LaSalle, and in front of that LaSalle obstacle is a Michael Phillips who I don't know. I don't even know how to put it anymore. I knew he was going to be good when he entered the UAP. I did not think he was going to be this good. And look, he still has his weaknesses. You put him at the free throw line, it can impact a game. the free throw misses in game three hurt LaSalle too, because that resulted in a lot of possessions not leading to points. So, but other than that, though, the rebounding, the scoring in the paint, the physicality, the toughness, that is what you need to stop. And if you're able to stop that, if you're UP, and again, all of these analysis is way too early, but we love college basketball, so we're doing it. If you can stop that, then you give yourself a very good chance. However, for LaSalle also, you need to know when you're facing UP, they're gonna have continuity. The chemistry in the court is good. And LaSalle's been in a lot of close games so far in the offseason. They need to work on the continuity. The fact that they're playing a lot of close games, I think, is actually gonna help them long term build that continuity on the court. All of that to say, I cannot wait for the first Phil Oil matchup between both these teams, or first Pinoy Liga matchup, because it is gonna be absolutely informative on what to expect for the rest of the year. And with this rivalry really heated also, a lot of people have kind of like chilled for a bit because it's been a few months since the UAP, but once that off season, culture starts again and those teams are matching up, it's gonna start again. And we know it.
And in the true spirit of Easter, Navs, let me end with this. For the second, arguably the third consecutive year, the winner of the MVP award is a damn foregone conclusion. Give it to Pastor Mike. Give it to Mike Phillips. End of discussion. I don't want to hear it.
He's on a different level right now. He looks like a pro in a college game. Like if you put he's one of those guys that if you put him in Tim Cohn's national team and you give him like 6 to 7 minutes just to come off the bench and provide energy, he's probably gonna change your game with his
Quality
energy alone.
minutes. Quality minutes.
One day I want to see him in the Philippines jersey. I think we all do. Him and QMB. We need those two guys in Philippines jerseys somewhere down the line. And hey, look, one more thing I just want to leave out. I mean, I don't want to leave out before we end. If UST makes the finals, don't be surprised. That's all I'm gonna say. If UST makes the finals, don't be surprised. I'm not saying they will make the finals. I'm saying if they make the finals, do not be surprised. This is a veteran team, the most dangerous UAAP team every season. In addition, or next to the most talented squads, are the veteran teams that are flying under the radar. And I feel like that's UST right now. And congratulations to them on getting Kohi Buenaflor and their high school graduates. It's nice to have that kind of loyalty story angle in recruitment. It's really nice.
I mean, if we could have the finals just like the main event of WrestleMania Saturday earlier as a triple threat match, mas maganda. Pero dyan sa sinasabi mong if UST makes the finals, then it means that perhaps one of those who played in the finals last year will not be there this year. As for who that is, well, that will be for another episode, I guess.
Well, Simon, it's always a pleasure to have you on. It's great to discuss college hoops with you, and we'll do it again soon when the off-season games start.
Thank you once again for having me, Navs. Happy Easter to everyone.
Oh, and one more thing. You guys read Simon's NBA stuff on All Star Magazine's website. Who's your NBA champion this year?
Feel the hatred and the negativity coming. Repeat champions. I'm not really fans of them, but
Uh,
this is what my reality and what my perspective tells me. I'm sorry, Navs. The Boston Celtics are going back to back.
Good Lord, man. Simon. Why you gotta do this, bro? Now, look, speaking of sleeping under the radar or going by under the radar, Boston, they're kind of slipping by under the radar, aren't they?
Slipping under the radar, and they're hoping Jalen Brown doesn't slip on a wet floor
Ugh,
anytime
good
soon
point.
because
Good
his
point.
right knee is plastic at this point.
Huh. You know what's so funny is like if like we have all these debates and discussions and then OKC just kills everyone like they've done all season long, right?
Totally, totally possible. Why not?
But there's just something stopping me from picking OKC or even Cleveland to win the championship.
It's called experience.
Yeah, it's also, by the way, I did not like what I saw from the Lakers
Oh,
earlier.
we're
That
right
was,
back where we
I
started.
mean, I mean, yes, Minnesota shot a bunch of threes, but I didn't see that fight or defensive intensity the last few weeks. But anyway, it's only game one. Game two might be different. But the pressure in mini when you get to game three. Look, I like my Heat's chances against the Cavs. I might be a little bit deluded. Who cares? But one thing that I know for sure is Miami's playing their best basketball of the season. So even if they do lose to the Cavs, at least they're going into that series knowing they're playing their best basketball of the season with confidence too and starting to build a rhythm with this team. I do still think the Cavs win that series though. I think Boston might be the best pick if Jalen Brown's knee stays healthy. If Porzingis doesn't slip on a wet spot, like that team's good, man. That team is good. They have a legit home court advantage, even if it looks like they lose sometimes, and their coach is good, and they got something to prove.
And well, congratulations to Adam Silver in advance because I think he's gonna get the highest viewership out of an NBA Finals in recent memory because I think on the other side of that bracket, the Los Angeles Lakers will overcome this 0-1 loss today and actually go on to the NBA Finals. I said it.
Mm. You really have a flair for storytelling. Celtics Lakers in the finals. Should have seen that coming. Thanks, Simon. Appreciate it. Have a great Sunday and see you soon.